Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jarada Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jagopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jayo Radha Krishna Chandra, Radha Krishna Chandra, Radhe.
Jaya Radha Krishna Chandra, Radha Krishna Chandra, Radhe.
Jayo Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Jayo Nitai Gauranga.
Jaya Nitai Gauranga, Jaya Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Jaya Nitai Gauranga.
Jayo Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Ashtotra Shadashi Srimad Divine Grace Abhay Charan Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jai Om Vishnuvad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Stotra Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskrityam Naranchaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye Nashtaprayeshvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhavati Naishtike. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 14th chapter, text number 21. Navayam prabhavastam tvam anukartum griheshvari apyayusha va kartsnena ye chanye gunagridhnavaha navayam prabhavastam tvam anukartum griheshvari apyayusha va kartsnena ye chanye gunagridhnavaha navayam prabhavastam tvam anukartum griheshvari apyayusha va kartsnena ye chanye gunagridhnavaha
Navayam prabhavastam anukartum griheshwari abhiyayusha vakartena ye chanye gunagridhnavaha Navayam prabhavastam anukartum griheshwari abhiyayusha vakartena ye chanye gunagridhnavaha
Word to word meaning. Na, never. Vayam, we. Prabhavaha, are able. Tam, that. Tvam, unto you. Anukartum, do the same. Graha Ishwari, O Queen of the home. Api, in spite of. Ayusha, by duration of life. Va, or in the next life. Katsnena, entire. Ye, who. Cha, also. Anye, others. Gunagridhnavaha, those who are able to appreciate qualities. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. O Queen of the home, we are not able to act like you, nor could we repay you for what you have done. Even if we worked for our entire life or even after death, to repay you is not possible, even for those who are admirers of personal qualities. Please repeat the translation. O Queen of the home, we are not able to act like you, nor could we repay you for what you have done. Even if we worked for our entire life, or even after death, to repay you is not possible. Even for those who are admirers of personal qualities. Purport. So much glorification of a woman by her husband indicates that he is a henpecked or is talking lightly in a joke. Kashyapa meant that householders living with wives enjoy the heavenly blessings of sense enjoyment and at the same time have no fear of going down to hell. The man in the renounced order of life has no wife and may be driven by sex desire to seek another woman or another's wife and thus go to hell. In other words, the so-called man of the renounced order who has left his house and wife goes to hell if he again desires sexual pleasure. Knowingly or unknowingly. In that way, the householders are on the side of safety. Therefore, husbands as a class cannot repay the debt to women either in this life or in the next. Even if they engage themselves in repaying the woman throughout their whole lives, it is still not possible. Not all husbands are as able to appreciate the good qualities of their wives. But even though one is able to appreciate these qualities, it is still not possible to repay the debt to the wife. Such extraordinary praises by a husband for his wife are certainly in the mode of joking. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Navayam prabhavastam tvam anukartum griheshwari apyayusha vakatsnena yechanye gunagridnavaha. O Queen of the home, we are not able to act like you, nor could we repay you for what you have done. Even if we worked for our entire life or even after death, to repay you is not possible, even for those who are admirers of personal qualities. So, here we can see how Kashyapa Muni is flattering his wife, eulogizing and glorifying his wife like anything. And that too when Kashyapa's wife Diti is making a proposal, we can call that indecent proposal. It's not a decent proposal, it's a very indecent proposal that Diti is making to her husband. So, when somebody makes an indecent proposal to us, then our response should not be like somebody comes to us with an indecent proposal. Should our response, oh, such a nice proposal, you're so nice person, you're so great, you are like this. Should we talk like that, or we will ask, what are you asking? Why are you asking? What should be our response? It is but obvious that our response should be very stern and very strong, not given to such kind of indecent proposals. Whereas we can see Kashyapa, he very well knows that this is not the right proposal, this is an indecent proposal. And yet, Kashyapa is acting very, very goody-goody, very, very nice, very, very sweet, to such an indecent proposal. So that shows Kashyapa's intelligence has been bewildered. You must be able to discriminate and act. So the sense of discrimination Kashyapa has lost. And that is the nature of lust. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita very clearly what are the consequences of when one becomes a victim of lust. Then what is the subsequent consequences? Very clearly, step by step, Krishna in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita explains the various dimensions, the trajectory of lust. We can just go through those verses again to understand how the intelligence of a person gets bewildered because of the lust. See, Krishna is from this the last verses of the 3rd chapter. Krishna very step by step explains how when a living entity is overcome by lust, then what are the subsequent consequences. So Krishna says, Kama yesha krodha yesha rajoguna samudbhavaha mahashano mahapapma vidyena miyavairinam. The blessed Lord said, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material modes of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. The next Krishna says how lust is present in the living entity. And Krishna explains presence of lust with an example. So Krishna says here, Dhumena vriyate vanir yata darsho malena cha yatolbena vrito garbhastata tene dhamavritam. As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, similarly the living entity is covered by different degrees of this lust. So lust is there. Living entity, in his heart there is lust. So that lust, when it is covering, it by the influence of time, it manifests in different ways. So then Krishna says, Avratam jnanametena jnanino nityavairina kamarupena kaunteya dushpurena nalena cha. Thus a man's pure consciousness is covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. Prabhupada always used to say that if you have a big fire and then one side you're throwing water to douse the fire, but on the other side if you're putting fuel to the fire, then how will the fire switch off? You have to cut off the supply of the fuel and then throw water, then it will get extinguished. But if you do the other process, what I just now told, then there's no question of this one. So in the example of Kashyapa Muni, this is very relevant. Like for example, Kashyapa in the beginning, when Diti came and made this proposal, at that point of time, Kashyapa said, hey, what are you asking, Diti? How can you ask this kind of things? This is not the right time for us to engage in this kind of an act. So we should not do this, and the consequences of this action will be very bad. So you see, Kashyapa knows that this is not the right thing to do. This is not the right thing to ask for Diti. He in fact told Diti also. But at the same time, here what is Diti saying? What is Kashyapa saying? Oh, you're so nice. Wife is so nice. Wife, husband's duty is to satisfy the wife, and especially getting a good wife means it's like a heavenly thing because the wife is ardhangini. She, she's half of the husband. So virtually, and so many kinds of things. So you see this kind of contradictory positions Kashyapa is taking. So when you become a contradictory person, when you contradict your own life, your own actions, then you will never be able to take a position at all because at one point you act like this, say like this, and another point you act like this. So that shows that the person is actually in Maya. He is not fixed in his words and actions. So when somebody is double-faced, that shows that they are two-faced person. They are not clear. Like Prabhupada says very clearly many times when Prabhupada says, what is that Prabhupada says? If somebody is constantly changing their philosophy, their principles in life, he is a rascal. Prabhupada says he is a rascal. Prabhupada uses this word. If somebody changes their positions and principles, then they are rascal. So, Kashyapa is a perfect example of that. You can see that initially Kashyapa said, yes, this is not right. We should not ask for this. But then when Diti started demanding and arguing with Kashyapa, suddenly you can see Kashyapa is changing the position and saying, oh, wife is like that, wife is like this, so many things like that. So this is rascal mentality, and this shows that he is not very fixed in the highest levels of spiritual practice. The same thing we can see, like for example, how our actions are influenced by our association. Very important that when in neophyte stage, of course, Kashyapa is a very elevated soul in that sense, and yet it's a lesson for all of us that an elevated soul like Kashyapa, who is a Muni, that kind of a person is getting influenced by Diti's character, shows how difficult it is to handle the external energy of the Lord. Maya is so powerful that a person of this stature can get bewildered and make these kind of statements. So what to speak of ordinary neophyte devotees? So neophyte devotees, we are told very specifically that we should avoid the association of women. We must avoid the association of young girls, even in terms of Krishna conscious preaching, because when we get association, when we associate with women, it is but natural that we will melt. Our so-called spiritual knowledge, sadhana, is very, very komala, because in a neophyte stage we only have komala shraddha, komala determination to practice spiritual life. That's why our acharyas constantly stressed on the fact that we must not associate with the opposite sex at all, because that opposite sex will automatically drive our latent inner desires, and at that point we will not be able to withstand the various uh, karshanas, because we are not completely pure devotees like that. These bijas, these seeds of lust are very much present in our heart, and those bijas, when they get an opportunity, when we interact with the opposite sex, and immediately those bijas immediately start manifesting. Just like Prabhupada gives the example that in the forest nobody goes and plants the plants, but somewhere the seed would have fallen, and that seed is waiting. Suddenly, immediately after a good rain, you can see all those seeds which is latently lying in the soil. It is blooming. So, as soon as it gets the required fuel for a seed, water is the fuel. So, it immediately emerges from the soil as a plant. So, similarly, in our lives, we are living in the ashram, we are engaging in spiritual activities, Mangalarti, chanting, and all these kind of things we are doing. And that is definitely making us, giving us a spiritual experience beyond the body, mind, and senses. But yet, Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Chandra Shri Shri Nitai Gauranga Ki. Yet it is but a fact that although we have the spiritual experience in the temple, uh, but we cannot deny the fact that we are also still attached to our various material desires and senses. So, that being the case, when we associate with the opposite sex, immediately those desires start manifesting. Just like when you come into the temple, you chant. When we chant, when we get up for Mangalarti, when we do nice sadhana, when we attend the nice Bhagavatam class, we become very spiritually potent. We experience that. All of us experience. We experience that spiritual strength in us. Similarly, also, when you associate with women, you can experience that. You go and meet a woman and you speak to personally, immediately you will start feeling a lot of different kinds of material desires popping up from everywhere. So, as the basic principles of Krishna consciousness is what? Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjana. Yes, coming to the temple, attending Mangalarti, chanting, these are all anukula for our spiritual life. But when we associate with a woman, it becomes pratikula, because it takes us out from our spiritual consciousness. Attraction to the opposite sex is a distraction from our spiritual pursuit, because clearly attraction for a woman is driven by our body and senses, whereas the truth of Krishna consciousness is we are not the bodies, we are spirit soul. As spirit soul, our only purpose in life is to be in the service of the Lord. That is the philosophical truth. And association with a woman is contrary to this truth. So, as devotees, we should be very, very careful in our association. And Bhagavatam is, through its verses, through its depiction of various characters, Bhagavatam is giving us insights into the human psychology, that how even great personalities like Kashyapa Muni, who were very elevated souls, they became victim to the sweet talk of their wives. What to speak of Kali Yuga Jivas like us? We are just ordinary living entities with no spiritual background and no tapasya, right? In our life, what is tapasya? No tapasya we have done. One day, if we have half a day of fasting, we are, Baba, when 12 o'clock is coming, we are constantly thinking, we'll be looking 100 times at the watch. Or one day, if we have to, every day to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, it's a big endeavor for us. Little service, if it becomes more, we are palpitating, we are complaining, oh, why this service? He is telling this one, he is telling that one. So, absolutely in Kali Yuga, we are Manda, Sumanda, very lazy. So, that being the case, this is our nature, this is the reality of our personalities. So, we must be extra careful that at least from our end, we don't make the step towards uh, associating with women. On our end, okay, sometimes Maya on its own accord comes. But at that time, sometimes Krishna gives special protection. But from our end, we should not take steps to engage in any this kind of activity, because when we start taking steps, then Krishna says, "Oh, this living entity, he wants to take independent steps." Then Krishna respects the individual's freedom. So Krishna says, okay, you want to do, you do. Krishna is very, very neutral. Yes, he wants to protect, but the living, and Krishna is guiding, don't do it. But at the same time, the living entity is saying, I want to do it. So we are going viruddha of Krishna. So at that point, fall down is imminent. We will succumb to the influence of the external potency of the Lord. The Lord says, okay. And then after falling down, again coming back to the spiritual life is a very, very difficult exercise. Because when the vehicle, very nice example Prabhupada gives, when the vehicle has attained a certain degree of momentum, if your vehicle is already going in the fourth gear, fifth gear at 120 kilometers of speed, then because it has already acquired a certain amount of velocity, it keeps going. The accelerator required is very less. But just imagine this kind of fall downs, association with women and then subsequent fall down. You are again back to your from 120 degree speed, 120 kilometers per hour speed. Padak, you have put a brake and your vehicle is now running at 15 kilometers speed. So 15 kilometers of speed means you have to put it in first gear only. Then again from first gear to second gear, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear. So much of energy is required. So this is a waste of our energy. Rather, we should utilize our intelligence and from the very beginning be far off from this kind of things. Our consciousness, we should not allow ourselves to pollute our consciousness. So this polluted consciousness means we will become victims of Maya. So these are actually what episodes the Bhagavatam is talking about, the story of Kashyapa and Diti. These are very instructive episodes, very, very instructive. They instruct us the pitfalls of our spiritual life. When we are undertaking an exercise in anything, we should be aware where we can go wrong, which are the various points. A good teacher will tell you what are the various things that you should be careful. When you teach the driver, when somebody is teaching us driving, car driving, the teacher tells us, hey, kabhi nahi lagana aisa brake, kabhi nahi aisa gear marna, you should leave the clutch very slowly. Oh, ekdam left se right tak nahi karna hai. So many things, instructions that we receive, right? And they are very, very important. Similarly, actually, the stories of Kashyapa and Kardama Muni are so instructive. So instructive. Because you see how the human mind uh, becomes victim to so many aspects. They become victim to so many aspects. Great learning can be got. Sometimes people don't understand why this kind of things are mentioned in the Bhagavatam, something like this. Because Bhagavatam is actually, it's a guidebook for living entities uh, as to how they should conduct in their life. It's a project that we should undertake. So, a project when we undertake, you must know what are the various dangers, what are the various things that you should follow. All aspects are there. So, yes, the principles of these things which are mentioned, how the wife is a, those things can be applied, not in this case, whatever the principles that Kashyapa is taking, that is not at all relevant to Diti. If it was Kardama Muni who was talking to Devahuti, then it is all relevant. Because Devahuti is a perfected soul. She was a queen of Swayambhava Manu. She was the daughter of Swayambhava Manu. And further in the third cat only, that Kapila's instructions, that whole Leela comes of how Devahuti achieved the highest perfection in life. So, although being the daughter of Swayambhava Manu, she became the wife of Kardama Muni. Kardama Muni was a ascetic. He had no money, nothing. He was living in a hut. But yet, Swayambhava Muni recognized the glorious life of Kardama Muni, and he asked Kardama Muni to accept his daughter as his wife. And Devahuti very happily married Kardama Muni and started serving Kardama Muni and gave up all her opulences of living in a very palatial life. She started living in most austere way. So much so, the Bhagavatam describes that how Devahuti, she was so beautiful. And because she started practicing severe austerity, she lost all her beauty. She lost all her beauty. She became very frail. She became very thin. And then, post that, Devahuti also told Kardama Muni that I want to have a son. Please give me the blessings of a son. And yes, Kardama Muni satisfied her desires. And then Kardama Muni not only satisfied her desires, he gave her back all her beauty. He built a whole city which was floating in the air. Prabhupada gives the example that so much was the opulence that an entire floating city airplane was created. Prabhupada says modern people, they are very, very, they are so proud that they say that such a heavy body we are able to float in the air. Modern scientists. But Prabhupada gives the example that our Shastras are saying, Are, what your plane? What is the weight of your plane? Kardama Muni made an entire city, floating city, and that was gifted to Devahuti. The description of the the city, the floating city is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So you see that material opulences, all those things are there, but in the right way. But in the right. So you see the application of these principles, you have to make proper judgment. Prabhupada, that's where everything matters. The so-called see Kardama Muni, Kashyapa, when he is talking like this, wife is like should be treated like this. Yes, in the Vedic society, the wife is given such kind of respect, opulence, and well taken care of, provided the wife is living like that. That's why the principle always we should remember: first you must deserve, then you must desire. So Diti's desire is completely not in line with the Vedic principles. So that being the case, how can Kashyapa agree to such kind of desire and then bring out these kind of arguments? It's completely not in line with the Vedic thinking. Totally out of line. So we must apply the right judgment in our way. Similar, so as devotees, like for example, we always have, when we meet people for preaching, there is always a justification. Oh, after all, Mataji, I can preach Krishna consciousness. She's a lady. What am I? I'm engaging with that lady for preaching Krishna consciousness. But then we must apply principles properly. Yes, preaching is powerful. Preaching is our mission. Preaching is our life. That's a great service to Prabhupada. But we should also understand, for preaching, what is most important? First you should save yourself, then you try to save others. And when you try to preach to women in a neophyte stage, you will not save yourself, rather you will succumb. It is very important. We must preach to everybody, but we must know where to draw the line. Hello, take them. Somebody else is there who can handle. As brahmacharis, it's not right for me to engage. Let me, if there is a nice Mataji, because ultimately Matajis also are part of Krishna's energy only. They have to be, and so nicely Matajis can engage in Krishna's service. But then there is a way to do it. There's a way to do it. So if somebody is there like that, and if some nice Mataji is there who can be engaged, they can be great assets for Srila Prabhupada's mission. So much of service they can do. But supposing by mistake we engage with an opposite sex and we get materially entangled with them, it's a great disservice to Srila Prabhupada. It's a great disservice. Post that lady and the people who are around associated with that person, what will be the respect towards Prabhupada's mission? They will lose all faith. And we have seen in ISKCON all these kind of things repeatedly happening. Repeatedly happening. Not once, twice. Hundreds of cases. So if we at least don't learn from past experiences, then there's a saying in English, if you do not learn from history, then you are bound to repeat it. So Bhagavatam is giving us history. It is itihasa. Past these kind of incidents have happened. And it is our duty that we must learn from that history. So this kind of flattery that Kashyapa is making, he is just making a fool of himself. Just chaplusi is making? Basically, because why do people do chaplusi? Why do people do flattery? Because there is an agenda behind that. Agenda is that by flattering somebody, that fellow will give me something for my material pleasure. When you flatter somebody, that means that you are making that person's ego so nice. You're flattering that person's ego, and consequent to that, that person will feel happy, and then he will give you something. That is the purpose. A devotee is not like that. A devotee doesn't believe in flattery at all. Devotee speaks the truth. That is the quality of a devotee. A devotee should speak the truth. Yes, as much as possible, the truth that the devotee speaks should be nicely spoken. But that is secondary. First is you speak the truth. How to make the truth nice, that is kala, that is skill. If you have good skill, you can even present the truth nicely. But just because you don't want to speak the truth, you want to speak lies in a nice way, that is completely unacceptable. You speak the truth. And yes, speak the truth as much as possible in a nice way. But at no point should you speak the lies. Should you have two faces? That is very detrimental to our spiritual life. We will slowly start losing faith in the holy name. We will have no rasa, we will have no joy in attending Mangalarti, we will have no joy in doing japa. Everything will become very dry, and then slowly you will start feeling, Are, what is this temple life? What is this spiritual life? Because living entity has to have the inspiration to practice spiritual life. Inspiration to practice spiritual life means what? He identifies himself as I am spirit soul. When you indulge like this, you identify yourself as I am body. So there is a mismatch. There's immediately a mismatch. And mismatch, you want to practice. How can somebody who's saying within his heart, he is always thinking, enjoyment, body. But externally, with the mouth, he is saying, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna means what? I am not matter, I am spirit. I am Krishna's servant. Please engage me in Krishna's service. That is Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So internally, there is a desire. I am body, I am enjoyer, I am enjoyer, I am enjoyer. Externally, I am Krishna's servant, I am Krishna's servant. There is total conflict. How can that person be peaceful? He will not be peaceful at all. That's why Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita is saying, Indriyani mano buddhir asyadishtanamar uchyate etair vimohatyesham jnanam avritya dehinam. See, the senses, the mind and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust, which wields the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. And then Krishna says, Tasmatman indriyani adho niyamya bharatarshabha papmanam prajayenam jnana vijnana nashanam. Krishna is saying, therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of lust by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and realization. How can we do that? Indriyani paranyahur indriyabhya param manaha manasastu para buddhe yo buddhe paratastu saha. Krishna is saying the working senses are superior to dull matter, mind is higher than the senses, intelligence is still higher than the mind, and he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. Evam buddhe param buddva samstabhyatmanam atmana jai shatrum mahabhavo kamarupam durasadham. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to material senses, mind, and intelligence, one should control the lower self by higher self, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. Step by step process. Krishna is explaining so beautifully in the Bhagavad Gita how the living entity gets trapped by lust. And then Krishna says how one can come out of this also. So these are very, very powerful examples and stories of the Srimad Bhagavatam that we can learn from and rectify our so-called material inclinations, correct the path of our life so that we don't fall into a ditch and meet with an accident. Accident is always dangerous. There's no question of small or big accident. You can see some accidents. In accident, many times we have heard that how, sometimes some accidents, nothing, very minor, it looks very minor, but the person has died. Very minor accident, the person can die. So risky it is. If you miss, it is possible. And sometimes some very ghastly accident, but that person is still alive. And even if he is alive also, you can see he is badly injured. So it will be very, very difficult for us. So we must protect ourselves from all these kind of pitfalls. This so-called, we must not indulge. And when we take that right step, of leading spiritual life, you feel internally like a great achievement. That pride, like Madhu Pandit Babu in his japa sessions, he keeps stressing on this. What is that? You must take pleasure out of doing japa. Something, what does he say? He says, no? Japa pleasure, what is that? When karya siddhi, like for example, I achieved this. So that sense of achievement will act as a impetus to again follow the rules and regulations. When you break the rules, there is an impetus to break the rules. When you follow the rules, there is an impetus to follow the rules. When you break, how breaking the rules will be this one? Because when you break the rules, you will start thinking, hey, nothing happened, you see, I broke the rule. When you indulge in something like this, then immediately the thing is that, hey, whatever, Prabhu didn't see, nobody saw, I can do again. And when you follow the rules, when you had a chance that you can engage in some Maya activity, yet you did not do that Maya activity, you become actually transformational. You feel great joy. I had that desire. I could have done that Maya, but I didn't do it. And when you didn't do it, there is a joy. You must feel that joy, pride. And that is positive pride. That is a positive pride. So we must, Madhu Pandit keeps stressing that you must take positive joy. I did today my 16 rounds. I feel great joy. I did one round properly. I did morning, nice deity service. I feel very nice about it. That is not ego. That is very much required. That sense of positive happiness. Because when we feel positive and happy, I did today very nicely japa. I did today very nicely deity worship. Today I attended Mangalarti. Today I attended a nice class. Today I did nice service. Then what happens? Tomorrow also I should do like this. Tomorrow also. Similarly, opposite also is true. Oh, today I did this Maya. Hey, tomorrow also I'll do. Tomorrow also. Both ways. You see, parallel lines are there. Maya has got one line, Krishna has got one line. What you want to choose, your vehicle will flow, will travel in that path. So fools can, when somebody says like this, fools will give examples also. Many fools will give examples. Hey, oh, in Vedas, this Leela is mentioned, that one is mentioned. In the Bhagavatam, this Leela is mentioned. You don't even understand why it is mentioned. It is mentioned so that people like you learn from it and don't do that mistake. It's not a license for you to do that mistake again. That is the purpose for which this is being mentioned, not the other way around. Okay, we'll stop here. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की, श्रील प्रभुपाद की.